In the heart of the beautiful, quiet state of Oregon, where forests embrace the plains and rivers cut through the land, just as memories carve through the hearts of men, everything was peaceful and ordinary. Life flowed on the strings of hope and prosperity. Families quietly built their present. Love was born on the edges of the highways, stretching between small towns and growing farms. Freedom filled the air, until the day everything decayed, and the city's rhythm was forever changed. The day a mysterious virus emerged, a strange, uncontrollable virus. Within a matter of weeks, the United States turned into a land of ruin. Cities became open graves, streets filled with mutated creatures, and people fell one after another. Yet, at its core, our story was never truly about the virus itself, not its significance, nor its horrors. Our story was always about a man who lost everything, and all he had left was his motorcycle. His name is Deacon St. John. A former soldier and a member of the Mongrels Motorcycle Club, he was a man in love with open roads. He lived with his wife Sarah, whose presence to him was his own little paradise.
Sorry about the mess. I do research. I study things.
Thanks. Had no idea what research was.
Sorry.
When the world crumbled under the spread of the virus, Sarah, amidst the overwhelming chaos, was stabbed with a knife contaminated by the infection. As her strength and resistance began to fade, Deacon, her husband, feared that the wound would either infect her or lead to her death. Determined to save her at any cost, he placed her aboard a helicopter belonging to NERO, a government organization tasked with controlling the crisis and stopping the spread of the virus, hoping they would take her to a safe camp where she could be treated. But the problem was this. After the helicopter took off with Sarah, everything changed. The camp they were headed to had already fallen, overrun by the Freakers, a group of humans infected by the virus who had mutated into zombie-like creatures. Even the helicopter itself crashed before it could reach the destination. For this reason, when Deacon later returned in search of her, he was told that everything had been destroyed and no one survived. Deacon broke down emotionally and grieved deeply, believing that Sarah had died. Once a soldier in a special military unit, he then became a drifter and bounty hunter, living in the wilderness with his closest friend, Boozer. He found himself in a lawless, chaotic world. Relying on his skills as a former soldier, he roamed between camps, hunting criminals and monsters in exchange for food, weapons, or money. He lived off his motorcycle, constantly on the move, facing dangers alone. He helped survivors by undertaking the difficult tasks they couldn't do themselves, rescuing kidnapped people, eliminating dangerous gangs, delivering supplies between camps, clearing areas infested with freakers, and protecting caravans. He also used his tracking skills and expertise to provide them with safety and resources, which made them gradually depend on him and trust him over time.
Yeah, here's old iron. Jesus Christ! This is why you brought me out here?
Deacon still carried deep sorrow and an inner conflict between living to help others or surrendering to the despair and emptiness left in his heart by Sarah's absence. During this time, Deacon encountered many key figures such as Colonel Garrett, a strict military leader who commanded a camp with the dream of rebuilding America through force and iron-fisted order. Iron Mike, a wise leader who sought to establish and spread peace between the camps instead of war. Schizo and Ada Tucker, leaders of other camps, each with their own visions of how to manage the survivors.
What's this about, huh?
But the most difficult trial Deacon faced was when his closest friend, Boozer, suffered severe burns on his arm, leaving him weak and disabled. Despite this hardship, Deacon never abandoned his friend. Instead, he did everything he could to save him and secure the medicine he needed. This bond between Deacon and Boozer was, at its core, a symbol of loyalty and brotherhood. even in a world where everything had collapsed. Over time, Deacon slowly began to regain parts of his humanity. While carrying out missions for Lost Lake Camp, led by Iron Mike, he started to feel that he was no longer just a drifter, but part of a small community that thought about the future and tried to survive and build a new life. Even though the wound of losing Sarah still bled in his heart. Then one day, while Deacon was on a mission, he discovered shocking news. An agent from the Narrow organization named O'Brien told him there was a chance that his wife Sarah hadn't died as he had been told. At that moment, Deacon's life was turned upside down. The hope that had long been buried inside him resurfaced, and he began a new journey, not only to help others, but to uncover the truth about Sarah, the virus, and Nero itself. When O'Brien told Deacon that Sarah might still be alive, Deacon didn't hesitate for a moment. He embarked on a grueling journey, traversing dangerous regions and chaotic camps, following any lead that could guide him to the NERO organization. He communicated secretly with O'Brien, who fed him small pieces of information over time, such as locations of abandoned facilities, stolen documents, and the names of certain scientists. Deacon used his cunning and skills as a bounty hunter to infiltrate Nero's bases and gather evidence, which revealed that Sarah had worked as a researcher within the organization before the outbreak. He also learned that NERO had transferred her to a remote research facility in the mountains. In an adventure fraught with danger, Deacon infiltrated the facility. There, he found Sarah alive. However, she was physically and emotionally exhausted, having been forced to continue working on the virus for Nero. Their reunion was deeply emotional. Neither of them could believe that fate had brought them together again after all these long years. They agreed to escape together. Sarah, with her knowledge of the place, opened the secret passages, while Deacon bravely fought off the facility guards. In the end, they managed to steal a helicopter and escape back to Lost Lake Camp, where a glimmer of hope returned to their lives once more. After their return to the Lost Lake Camp, the path wasn't easy for Deacon and Sarah. Deacon learned that the real danger was not just the freakers or the rogue gangs, but the Wizard Island camp itself, led by Colonel Garrett. The Colonel was attempting to establish a totalitarian military regime, obsessed with the idea of purging humanity by force, using extreme religious rhetoric and a deadly biological weapon. Sarah, with her scientific expertise, realized that the weapon the Colonel was forcing her to develop could wipe out not only the freakers, but also humans. It was then that Deacon made a fateful decision. He would not allow this regime to continue. Together with Sarah and his friends, like Risky, Ada Tucker, and some survivors from Lost Lake, they began planning to take down the Wizard Island camp. In a series of decisive battles, they attacked enemy positions, with Deacon facing Colonel Garrett himself in the final confrontation. The battle ended with the Colonel's defeat and the fall of his tyrannical regime. With the threat over, Deacon and Sarah returned to Lost Lake, realizing that life could never go back to how it was before the disaster. But the hope of rebuilding a small community based on cooperation and loyalty became possible. In the final scenes, we see Deacon and Sarah gazing at the horizon as their community begins to stand on its feet once again. However, the clouds haven't fully cleared. As in a final meeting with O'Brien, the agent reveals that the Nero organization hasn't disappeared, and the virus has begun mutating in ways that are still not understood, signaling that humanity's battle is far from over. And here we come to the end of the story, where Days Gone has offered us a unique experience in a vast and detailed open world. A survival adventure full of challenges, with a combat system that combines stealth, direct confrontations, crafting weapons, and setting traps to face the hordes of freakers. The gameplay relied on traveling by motorcycle, exploring abandoned forests and destroyed camps, with encounters that demand intelligence, quick reflexes, and sharp instincts to stay alive. All of this was delivered with stunning graphics, breathtaking natural scenery, intricate enemy details, and visual and sound effects that transport you straight into the heart of a post-apocalyptic world. And now, we await a new chapter, where the virus will evolve to create strange creatures and monsters that are difficult to eliminate. Intelligent and powerful beings, capable of tracking scents and sounds. Monsters that can identify targets, set traps, and communicate with each other in complex and sophisticated ways. What awaits us will be more dangerous and greater than anything we have ever known. If you enjoyed the story and the experience, don't forget to support us. With a like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell, so we can discover together the secrets of the world to come and fight the battle to the end.